Thank you. You realize that it's only going to go downhill from here if you stay this enthused. I mean, I don't know if I can keep up.
Congratulations, Kentucky. Now that Barack Obama is stepping down, we have found a new Antichrist. We found a new Kenyan, Muslim, fascist, communist champion of our cause.
How about this race? Really?
Well, how about your positions on gay marriage? How about your positions on health care? How about your positions on abortion or the estate tax or unions and the right to work? It actually reminds me of a poem. First, they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
For those of you in the media who thought that Republican politics in the state of Kentucky was dead and was boring, think again. Think again. Really and truly.
Never said that the Republican Party was dead in Kentucky. The Republican Party has had a resurgence. Like, they're basically counter-revolutionaries for the last... Alabama Mitch has been in the Senate ever since I've been 2 years old. If anything, that's all I've ever seen is a bunch of fucking Republicans.
I want to start tonight by acknowledging a handful of individuals by name.
Fully vetted Matt Bevin out. Where's his birth certificate? Oh, Denver, Colorado. You know it's legal there?
The Secretary of State, Steve Nipper, for putting himself out there.
But Bevin comes from New Hampshire. That's where he originally started from. But what's up with this? Kentucky, you're voting all these carpetbaggers in. You've been voting for Alabama Mitch for the last 3,000 years. You voted for Pennsylvania Rand. Now you're voting for New Hampshire Bevin. So we got a New Hampshire takeover. We have Hal Heiner's from Wisconsin. So what is it? Will T, he got none of y'all's votes. Y'all don't like yourselves, do you? You hate yourselves. You see what Matt Bevin's doing and you're like, well, maybe that is how we're supposed to be running things. Maybe that's what we're supposed to be doing.
State Auditor Mike Harmon.
Matt Bevin actually did live in Kentucky more in his life than anywhere else. So he is mostly a Kentuckian, whether he knows it or not.
And I will name them in alphabetical order. They are Richard Heath and Ryan Quarles. Allison Ball. As she liked to often remind people on the campaign trail, she was the good Allison on the ballot. John Larson. I've already messed up the alphabetical order. And Kenny Imes. Mike Hogan and Whitney Westerfield. I want to give a special thanks and appreciation to three guys who I ate a lot of chicken with.
And it turns out you're the chickens they're planning on eating.
James Comer. Hal Heiner. Best lines of the entire campaign, Will T. Scott.
This is fascinating. Here we have Matt Bevin saying, hey, you Republicans who ran in these campaigns, thank you for sticking your neck out. Thank you for making these races more interesting. He thanks all the Republicans in the Republican Party, in the Republican primaries, regardless if they won or not. He appreciates all of the Republicans.
As you all are aware, AP and pretty much everybody else has called this race for us.
I heard they didn't.
It is an honor. It is a privilege. I also want to truly thank each and every one of you for being here.
You're welcome, Matt Bevin.
Jane Hampton, all I will say is that she grew up in the 50s and 60s in inner city Detroit, when things that we're seeing in places like Baltimore pale by comparison to what happened as that city devolved into the type of chaos that happens when non-conservative ideas rise to the top.
The riots in Detroit and the riots in Baltimore was because of police brutality. In Ferguson, 75% of all the residents in Ferguson had been arrested. 75%. That's the people, that's the population. Police brutality is the reason why those riots happened. Baltimore was an uprising against police terrorism. There's also lack of job opportunities, poor education, poor health care, and then, of course, the drug war, which is victimizing black people, making chain gangs out of them having, a joint. Non-violent offenses, then cop comes in, beats your face in, throws you in prison, and now you're out on the interstate picking up everybody's garbage because clearly you were not a productive member of society and you needed to be taken out of society. Drug war, the lack of good education, health care, good jobs, that's the conservatives. Conservatives are the ones that created the conditions for Baltimore.
And I'll tell you, my hat is absolutely off, although I don't wear one, to Janine's mom, who when Janine was 7 years old, her dad left the family, and her mother, with an 8th grade education, raised 4 little girls in inner city Detroit by herself, in raising them with a conviction to not be victims, to not make excuses, to rise up and take ownership of their lives.
And you know what kind of people always makes excuses, always pretends like they're victims, who doesn't take ownership of their lives? Those goddamn dirty, rotten...
And God bless you, ma'am, for setting that example.
Did you hear all the racism? Just because she's black doesn't mean her policies will help black people. In fact, we've seen that with Obama.
We are Kentucky. We are black, white, male, female. We are Kentucky.
Because you say so, Matt. And when you say we are Kentucky, why don't you sound like you actually believe it?
I am calling out to you tonight to join us in this effort because we are indeed Kentucky.
I actually saw an old picture of Matt Bevin where he had a Daniel Boone raccoon hat. And so he was in New Hampshire dreaming of being a Kentucky boy. So I like Matt Bevin, like on a personal level. His cult of celebrity is very compelling. But ultimately, it's only the policies that matter when they get into office.
If you are a conservative and you hold dear conservative values regardless of your party, regardless of your political persuasion, we ask you to come on board because we are Kentucky.
If you're a conservative Democrat who believes in all the ideas of the Republican Party, why in the fuck are you a Democrat?
You are out there tonight regardless of your party, and you value the very Judeo-Christian ethics and principles that this nation was built on.
Such as owning slaves?
And you want a governor and a lieutenant governor that will go to Frankfurt and be unapologetic for holding those very values to heart and forward as an example for this state and this nation. Come on aboard because we are Kentucky.
Come on board, y'all. We're Kentucky. That's how you're supposed to say it. Actually, you should say it. Look, we are Kentucky. We are Kentucky through and through. We come up out of this dirt. We come up out of this ground. We've been here the whole time. We ain't no carpetbagger. We know how things are around here.
If you are pro-life, we ask you to come aboard because we are Kentucky.
So we can say goodbye to sex education, goodbye to contraception. I'm sure that's going to be a great strategy to have less unwanted pregnancies. And it doesn't matter if you're raped by some incestual father, you still will have that baby. That's a blessing from God, and you will have the kid regardless if it's right or not.
If you support the family in our pro-family, we ask you to come aboard and join us because we are Kentucky.
Pro-family? So that was actually a code word, wasn't it? Because gay people have families, gay people have adopted kids, and they have turned out very productive. They turned out fine. In fact, I know way more dysfunctional straight marriages than I know dysfunctional gay marriages. One thing gay people can teach us is egalitarianism. A study was actually done 10 years or so to determine who is the most turned on by gay porn. And it turned out the homophobic people who said, oh, I hate gay people, I'm disgusted, they were the ones who were turned on the most by gay porn. So whenever anybody is sitting there saying, I don't want gay marriage, I don't like gay people, it ain't natural, it ain't right, and I'm going to stand up until the day I die, like that Duck Dynasty guy, that is the biggest homosexual. He is flaming. He's the biggest homosexual in our society. He is turned on by gay porn even more than gay people are. So I think that actually comes to where this comes from. Where does this bigotry against gay people come from? Two consenting adults should be allowed to do whatever they want to in the privacy of their own home. So why do you care what they are doing? I'm more creeped out by the person who wants to be peeping in their windows just to be seeing if they are having gay sex or not. That's weird, man. You're the gay. You're not only are you homosexual, but you are internalizing it very weird, and your rage is coming out. If you just accepted that gay part of yourself, then you wouldn't be acting. And so at the very heart of the gay marriage debate, I think that the people who speak up against gay marriage the most secretly think that dicks might be delicious.
You believe, regardless of the party that you happen to be registered in, that the Second Amendment protects your right to keep and bear arms, and that it shall not be infringed, and you want a governor and lieutenant governor that will fight for those principles and that constitutional right and privilege, come on aboard, because we are Kentucky.
Yeah, guns!
You want opportunity for yourselves, you want jobs and prosperity for your children and your grandchildren. We ask you to come on aboard because we are Kentucky.
When it comes to economics, there's two big schools of thought. There's John Maynard Keynes, looks like keys, cans, Keynesians. And then there's Milton Friedman, who's laissez-faire. He wants to increase GDP and exports and get more foreign investors into our state. And so I would want to know from Matt Bevin, is he a Keynesian? Or is he a Milton Friedman type economist? If he's a Milton Friedman type of economist, well then get ready for Kentucky to be sold to the Taiwanese cocaine cartels or to the Pennsylvania coal companies who own Kentucky utilities. Very much just like UK and U of L, very few Kentuckians are being elevated to these highest positions. Only one or two Kentuckians are allowed to sit at the table. And if we're not sitting at the table, then we're probably what's on the menu. A bunch of chickens voting for Colonel Sanders. That's the Republican Party. So if Matt Bevin, we're going to cut out all the welfare, all the food stamps and all the SNAP benefits and the WIC and any of the, health insurance for the children. If we cut out all of the welfare, the lie heap that Clay County and Owsley County have, since 80% of Owsley County and Clay County are on the dole, they will starve to death. You will see Owsley Countyans and Clay Countyans starve to death. Well, 80% of Clay Countyans and Owsley Countyans who vote are Republicans. So, yeah, fuck them. Nobody should be allowed on the dole, but having something to make it a little bit easier on us, that's a good business decision. When corporations do the exact same thing and they get subsidies, when the big banks got all that money, that was good business to them. And yet if we say, well, we want some food, then all of a sudden we're criminal? That's insanity. That's crazy. That too is a good business decision. So there are some social programs that we all love and that we all use. Public roads, public schools, the police, fire departments, and by having increase in social spending in the social programs that we agree, we actually increase the amount of freedom in our lives.
And I want to take this moment, I don't want to dampen the buzz here, but I want to take a moment and congratulate Jack Conway and Sandy Overly for winning their nomination. And we look, you can clap a little bit, it's all right, it's okay, it's all right.
Did you notice how none of the Republicans were going to cheer for Jack Conway? Nuh-uh. He's a goddamn Democrat. Them Democrats have been giving me welfare for years.
I mean it sincerely. My hat's off to them because they too have jumped into the arena. although I haven't seen a lot of evidence of that, but I understand.
Good one, Matt.
You have seen our blueprint for a better Kentucky. And I won't take you through all 7 tenets of that, but they all boil down to one thing.
The entire blueprint all comes down to one thing. Which one of those ideas will trick you into coming out and voting for me?
They boil down to job creation and economic opportunity, whether it's taxes, the size of government, education, health care, etc. They boil down to how are we going to take Kentucky forward economically.
When it comes to the economics, you actually do have both Conway and Bevin saying that they're going to be very corporate friendly, going to be very friendly to the 1%, to the B. Wayne Hughes and the William H. Spences. The wealthy, the top 1%, B. Wayne Hughes, the richest man in Kentucky, William H. Spence, the Pennsylvania CEO who owns Kentucky Utilities. It's not Kentucky no more. It's owned by Pennsylvania. They buy our electricity at 3 cents a kilowatt hour and then resell it back to us at 10 cents. Over 200% markup. So they are going to be fighting for the wealthy, the 1%, the corporations, giving them all the breaks that they can get. Jack Conway was in favor of the Bush tax cuts. That suggests he is in favor of the 1%. Matt Bevin, he's a Republican, and he wants to get rid of the estate tax. The estate tax only affects the 1%. There is a ban, a federal ban on anybody that's poor. You got to keep your land, so only the top 1% would be taxed with the estate tax. Bevin's going to cut taxes for the 1%. And Jack Conway wanted to protect the 1% by keeping the Bush tax cuts permanent. The problem with this mentality is corporations aren't going to save us all. If we get a bunch of corporations in here, lots of Walmarts, that doesn't mean that we're going to have better lives. If anything, that means we're going to be used for the minimum wage jobs. So whereas we need some corporations to come in here, in fact, I'm for the corporate HQ. So Walmart, fuck the Walmarts. We need to have our own HQ here for a big department store. That's Walmart's whole thing, right? Buy dirt cheap, have a bunch of stuff. I mean, anybody could copy that business model, but all the profits go to Arkansas. Compare that to Houchins Industries, who owns IGA and Save-A-Lot. That money goes to Bowling Green. And so that concentration of wealth that a corporate HQ represents stays in our state. So some Kentuckians are making bank. Since the corporations aren't going to save us all, what we need to do as working class, middle, working, poor, homeless classes of Kentuckians is we need to establish ourselves. We need to develop ourselves as much as possible. We need good legal advisors, we need good financial advisors, and we need some money. We need seeding money for small business ideas. Seeding money. We need more entrepreneurs. There's people out there, instead of getting a job, they might have a good business idea. And if they're able to convince somebody, they write a good business plan up, I think that there should be some money that helps these good ideas, these startups, actually become something.
Is going to be related to education. Because I'll tell you what, I don't care what party you're in, you want a better education result for your young people. You absolutely do.
No, I don't. Don't tell me what I believe.
Of going into all of the details as to what the differences will be, we'll hash those out as we go forward, but I want to make things very, very crystal clear. Janine and I will fight to bring school choice to Kentucky.
School choice? You mean like charter schools? That's Obama's race to the top. Obama. That is an Obama idea. I could tell an Obama idea from a mile away. I could smell it. In order to get more race to the top funds, we have to have a legislative pathway in order to allow charter schools to be developed. If we have a legislative pathway, say you need $1 billion before a charter school from private money. The only way a charter school can be developed is $1 billion. Write that law, and once that law is on the books, you can get some of that extra money. We are only one of 7 states that do not have a legislative pathway to charter schools. Big positions that I agree with Matt Bevin on. I agree with his anti-Patriot Act stance. I agree with his legalizing medical marijuana stance. This is a Barack Obama idea. Charter schools, this is Barack Obama imposing his will upon you. And this is Matt Bevin taking Obama's ideas and shoving it down your throats. And the reason why I'm not against it is because public education in Kentucky has failed. It is absolute embarrassing what the kids are doing very well on the standardized testing. Just had a 12% turnout rate, number one in cancer, the 1 million poor people, number one in pollution, number one with the poorest mental health, number one with child deaths and child abuse cases. Poorer states, the income per capita is one of the lowest. So when you take all those things combined, there's a reason why Kentuckians can't even do the basic duty and go out and go vote. Matt Bevin won the primary election for the Republicans with 70,000 votes. And then Jack Conway won the Democratic primary with 140,000 votes. The biggest number, the most remarkable number, is 2.8 million. 2.8 million Kentuckians said, fuck it. I'm not going to do what my forefathers and all those soldiers died for. I'm not going to go vote. I'm not going to do my least of my duties as a citizen in this republic. And if you're not doing the least of your duties, what are you doing? Catching reruns of Honey Boo Boo? My problem with charter schools is if they're privatized. I don't want no private charter schools here. Will T. Scott was saying that his charter schools would have been straight out of the executive branch. So it would have been like Will T. Scott's, children, the Hitler Youth, the Bevin Youth. So they would be able to develop their own school curriculum however they felt like. In order to prevent our school system from being privatized, all charter schools would have to be like magnet schools. Everybody could attend if they meet the requirements, no discrimination. And then I would also ensure that all charter schools would also be unionized. We're going to protect the teachers' unions. Not Bevin, but we should protect the teachers' unions. A better idea, which is sort of a compromise between charter schools and outright universal public education, totalitarian fascism, is vouchers. Give the $8,000 that a Kentucky child gets per year. Every year, every Kentucky child gets about $8,000 of money that Frankfurt gives to the school district. And then the school district distributes that $8,000 however they feel like it. Well, that's giving money to the bureaucrats. We don't need to do that anymore. Let's give money directly to the parents, and then they can take that $8,000 voucher and spend it wherever they want to spend it. If they want to go to a private institution, if they want to teach their kid in the Catholic faith or the Mormon faith or the Muslim faith, if they have a better school, a private school, if they want to send their kid to the county down the road, then they should be able to have that choice to spend that $8,000 voucher wherever they want to spend it. While I believe in universal education, K through 12 spending I would have protected, I do not like how our education system is failing. The biggest change that I would like to see public education undergo is a teaching of civics and have democratic institutions. We're all together here, so let's learn how to get along and let's learn how to make decisions together. Let's learn how to tolerate opinions of people, from people we don't agree with. Let's learn how to tolerate those opinions. Let's learn how to stand up and speak for the issues and the things that we want. Here's where we want the body to go. This is the action. I would like to file a motion for, the young Democrats to institute instant runoff voting. Why do you believe that? Because it would be better for democracy. Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Good. Ayes have it. Now we got instant runoff voting. That's what we need to be taught. If we're not learning democracy in our schools, where are we learning it from? At McDonald's? At Taco Bell? Is Walmart going to teach us how we're supposed to interact and talk with each other in parliamentary procedure? We're not learning in the businesses. They're not being taught in the homes. It needs to be the schools. If the schools aren't teaching democracy, there is no understanding of democracy in this state.
Because we are one of 7 states that does not allow for any competition for your public education dollars, and that's not acceptable. We'll also lead the charge to remove Common Core as the standards here in the state of Kentucky. We will.
Yeah, fuck reading, writing, arithmetic. We don't need to learn them there books. So y'all want to get rid of math and English and science? It was the science, wasn't it? Math and English are like, okay, we can tolerate the math and English. that damn dare science, and we ain't gonna, no way. As soon as they start understanding science, they'll be against God. And that, we don't want to learn your progressive secular ways. We're gonna be like Sweden. No. We'd rather be like Saudi Arabia. Let's get some intellectual, intelligent design in our classroom.
A second point is as it relates to, frankly, the way in which we tolerate the overreach of the federal government. We have the right, as a state, to hold on to the 10th Amendment, the very amendment that affords us...
You hear those claps just trickling in? Very little support for the 10th Amendment.
And we will stand firm on this because it affects any number of people in this state, not the least of which is the way in which we've allowed the EPA to overreach on our state and to suffocate the coal industry. That will end. That will end.
So far, the EPA hasn't even come up with a plan. So what the fuck are you all talking about? This is an issue that both Jack Conway and Matt Bevin, again, just like the estate tax and the Bush tax cuts, the protecting the 1%, the bankers and the corporate class, they also will defend King Coal.
While it is easy enough to put a bumper sticker on our cars, and I don't disparage those who do it, and while it's easy enough to pay a few extra bucks a year to get a license plate that declares that we are friends of coal, and I don't question the fact that there are many friends of coal, we need somebody in the governor's seat that will fight on behalf of the coal industry in the state of Kentucky.
Coal company operators. Because both the Democrat and the Republican candidate have already sold their souls out to King Coal. So if you like clean air and you like clean up water, well, fuck you. It's going to be a race to who can destroy the environment the most. There's going to be lots of dirty air, lots of dirty water. Number one for pollution, we can go higher than that.
And I pledge not only as it relates to the EPA, but as it relates to every other alphabet soup of regulatory agency that does not have the legal ability to do so, that we will push back at every turn. Because where we are not legally bound to do that which is to our disadvantage, we will make clear that we will stand on our state sovereignty. We will do what is in our best interest. We will say to the federal government who tries to bribe us to do what is not in our best interest with federal dollars, which, let's not kid ourselves, are our own dollars coming back to us. We will say, keep your dollars, keep your suggestions, and we will do what is best for the people of Kentucky.
One of the issues I actually agree with Bevin on the Patriot Act. Get the fucking NSA out of here. He said the alphabet agencies, CIA, FBI, ATF, alphabet agencies. Is that what he's talking about? We need to understand his views more specifically. Don't let these vague code words trick you. What does he actually mean behind all of his words?
We will have a very spirited discussion as it relates to health care in this state. Trust me on that.
He's talking about connect right there. That's some of the two biggest criminal things that I see the government do is not provide us health care that we need. If there's somebody, we have a grandmother who dies of an ailment, and you prevent her from getting the medicine that she needs, or you stop her from getting the health insurance that she needs so she can get better, then you're the fucking criminal. You're sitting there forcing us to go fly to fucking Alaska just to save our dead, dying grandmothers. You're killing our fucking grandmothers. And if there's, 650,000 Kentuckians are on Obamacare, on Medicaid, on Connect. 650,000. And so Matt Bevin here is talking about death panels. He is talking about setting up death panels and saying which one of these Kentuckians are going to live and which one of these Kentuckians are going to die. Death panels. These are literal death panels. And it should be criminal. If there is a disease that can be prevented and the government doesn't do it, Bobby Jindal didn't take the money, and every person in Louisiana that died of a preventable disease should hold Bobby Jindal liable. The same goes for the drug war. Somebody is sitting in their apartment, overdosing on heroin, and you're going to come in to their house, beat the shit out of them, throw them in prison, put a felony on them, ruin their whole fucking life, and then sit there and tell me you did it for their best interest? Get the fuck out of here. That shit's criminal. I'm a libertarian. So that means we should have a right to do what we want to our own bodies. When did we lose the right to our own bodies? If I started drinking bleach, you think the best way to stop me from drinking any more bleach, beating the shit out of me and making me a felon to where I can't get a job or housing and then throw me in prison so you could charge me $50 a day just so that the jailers can rape the shit out of me? You think that's fucking just? That's not fucking just. You don't know shit about justice or morality. Do unto others as you have them do unto you. Christians, aren't y'all supposed to love people? Where's the love at? How's that love? We should have a Colorado model with cannabis, and we should have a Portugal model with all the rest. Decriminalize all the rest and legalize cannabis in Kentucky.
We will dismantle the Connect program by the end of 2016.
Hey, throwing poor people out of the hospitals into a ditch where they fucking belong. And hopefully they'll be so poor, destitute, and desperate when Walmart comes in, they'll work for fucking $1 an hour. That would be great for the corporations. Fuck the Kentucky people. Let's go the Republican route. Let's fuck the Kentucky people over as much as we can. Before, businesses were required to provide health insurance. If you get rid of health care, you're going to force businesses to have to provide that again. Health care provided by the government is good for the business, good for the worker. You make strong workers, people can keep coming back, and then that's good for the company to have good, strong workers who don't always have to take off because they're sick. It's good for everybody, unless you're just an anti-Obama piece of shit, unless you're just an anti-healthcare is life. Germany had healthcare in 1870. In 1870, Germany had health care. We're the last industrialized nation to get health insurance. We're the last ones. And that makes me wonder, health is life. That means our fucking government doesn't give a fuck about our lives, and they never have. They've never given a shit about our lives.
Again, there are many things I'd love to touch on, including taxation, and we'll go into great detail on that. Start with our blueprint for a better Kentucky.
Now, he's mentioned that he wants to repeal the estate tax. He also talked about sales tax and income taxes. He wants to get rid of all taxes, right? That's sort of what Republicans do, cut taxes and make government so small you could drown it in a bathtub. Norquist, right? That was Norquist's sort of mantra. This goes to New Hampshire. He's from New Hampshire. New Hampshire has no sales tax and no income tax. There's also that's a live free and die state. Live free or die. Something similar, the exact same, actually, in our Constitution, Kentucky and New Hampshire's Constitution, is the right to revolution. We have a right to revolution. If the government doesn't protect our peace, happiness, safety, and our property, we have a right to change our government by any means necessary. Section 4 of Kentucky's Constitution. New Hampshire has the exact same thing. Since he's from New Hampshire, and there's no sales tax and no personal income tax in New Hampshire, he's going to totally fuck up Kentucky's budget. Kentucky's budget will be fucked.
But the last thing I want to touch on tonight that is critical to our state, that costs us nothing in absolute dollars on the barrelhead, but the opportunity cost is more than we can afford to continue to bear. We must pass right-to-work legislation in the state of Kentucky.
Matt Bevin's talking about the right to work. The right to work. Reich. Just like Adolf Hitler. He went after the trade unions to begin with. We don't have many Kentuckians that are in unions. This is not a big thing. This is not something that is pressing and being demanded by the Kentucky people. To destroy the unions, the few unions that are here, people like the unions that they are in. The teachers' unions, the police unions, fire department, pilots' unions. They like these unions. Unions are solidarity. Solidarity with working class people. We need more unions. That would increase more money would come into our pockets. We would have better wages, better jobs, and we would be treating each other better instead of just being a bunch of individualistic assholes out here. We would actually say, we are our brother's keeper and we care about one another.
It is not acceptable that we have forced this down to the county level, that we have to have counties doing this from the bottom up, although they are leading on this front. And I applaud those starting with Warren County who have led the way on this, and yet that is not acceptable. We need leadership in the governor's seat. We need leadership from the lieutenant governor, and we will lead on this front because we cannot afford anymore, because this is a litmus test, and company after company passes us by because we have been now and are the only state remaining in the South that has not passed right-to-work legislation. We cannot afford it anymore.
So we have a guy who was born in Denver, Colorado, but actually came from New Hampshire, telling us Kentuckians that we're not being Southern enough. I don't know what to think anymore. Every state in the South has gotten rid of the union protections. My thing with this, the caveat that I have, I understand the right to opt out of something, but you don't get any of the benefits that the union has provided. If you want to opt out, we need to have the option to opt in. If you pass the Kentucky Employee Free Choice Act, every person that is employed, a big 15, 25, maybe even smaller, anybody that's an employee that is being paid by somebody else would have the opportunity to unionize, to vote for unionization. And then once we've had the option to opt in, then you could give us the option to opt out. Right now, it doesn't even feel like we have the option to opt in. First, there's, lots of ignorance, so people wouldn't even understand solidarity and unionizing and how that process even works. And so I believe because of the culture of ignorance that the Kentucky people can be sold a bill of goods that says the unions are destroying this economy. Since most people aren't part of a union, then they can understand, well, I don't want the unions forcing me to pay these dues and giving me nothing back. And so this is a silver bullet right into the heart of the labor movement. Bloody Harlan was for nothing if Matt Bevin gets this passed. This is like Luke Skywalker's shot into the Death Star. This is going straight for the absolute center point, and it's going to blow the whole thing up.
Bottom line is Janine and I have a very different vision than those we will oppose for the next several months for the state of Kentucky. We have a vision that takes advantage of the very resources that we have been blessed with. We are an exceptional state, but we have failed to live up to our own potential for greatness. We are blessed with a confluence of riverways and roadways, with mountains and lakes, with a diversity and an amazing abundance of incredible resources, coal, timber. We are blessed with a geographic centrality, with shipping hubs and the logistical capabilities that are the envy of states all over this nation.
Yeah, we know, Matt Bevin, we're God's country. We're the very heart of America. Carry on.
We are blessed with things you could not buy at any price. And yet we have failed to live up to the potential for these. This will end because we believe in Kentucky. We value Kentucky. And as we have said time and time again, we are Kentucky. I want to close with this. Ronald Reagan, a number of years ago, reminded us of something.
Shit, now Ronald Reagan, he's the one that fired the air traffic controllers. He's the one that showed everybody just fuck over the workers. If they want a better agreement, if they don't want, the long-ass hours and a complicated schedule, and if they want some more money, then fuck them, just fire them. And that stagnated our income for the next 3 decades because of what Ronald Reagan did. That devastated, that's what put the unions on the ropes. And now they're going to try to knock the unions over the ropes and then out of our lives. Ronald Reagan is the one that was killing Guatemalans, El Salvadorians, Nicaraguans. He's the one that shot Oscar Romero. That was a priest, a Catholic priest, who was standing up for the poor in El Salvador. That was Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan is the one who gave the weapons to Osama bin Laden. That's Ronald Reagan.
And I want to paraphrase it just slightly. He reminded us that this was morning in America. And my challenge to you tonight is to recognize that Janine and I firmly believe that this is morning in Kentucky. This is morning in Kentucky. However, my question to you is, are you willing to get out of bed? Are you willing to get up? Will you wake up? Will you get out of bed? Because it does us no good if we stay in bed if it's morning in Kentucky. We have great opportunity ahead of us. But I'm telling you, together, we can do this. Together, we can do this because we are Kentucky. Thank you.
All hail Bevin. Hail Bevin and the Bevin death panels and the right to work and the rise of American fascism.
God bless you, and God bless the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Compare our economy to Germany. In Germany, they could do capitalism and socialism better than Kentucky does. Germany does capitalism and socialism better than Kentucky. Kentucky, we've got both. You got socialist salt trucks, socialist roads, socialist post offices, and then you also get the farmers get all that welfare, that tobacco settlement check. There's lots of things that government does for us. So to not acknowledge that, we are going to be cutting our own legs. We're going to be cutting our own legs out from underneath us. And so what I propose is a balanced system, one that allows for the corporations to come set up shop, hopefully the HQs, and one that allows for people to organize into their own unions and to put those corporations' feet to the fire to make sure they are treating us right. There is not an inherent contradiction between making money and treating people like human beings. And so we could do capitalism and we could do socialism as good as Germany does. They do both. They have a strong social movement, lots of labor unions, and they have one of the top 3 highest GDPs in the world. So they're taking care of their workers, getting paid $60 an hour, plenty of health care, free college. They're okay. Germany is doing all right. And they are doing all right because they have a good combination between capitalism and socialism. So we need to have an honest conversation about those things. We already have a mixed system. We already have half socialistic, half capitalistic. So let's just keep that system as is. Let's continue to have a mixed system. And let's talk about these issues like we got some goddamn sense.